Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Planning Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Mayor McManus.
Here.
Alderperson Rosendich. Here. Caprillion.
Here.
Pinker. Banks. Hockenneck. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, approval of the minutes from the February 16th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Pinker, second by Mrs. Banks. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item 4, citizen comments. Any comments from the citizens? Seeing none, we'll close the citizen comment period. Item 5, municipal code amendment request by Scott Stifler to amend chapter 18-35(3) and chapter 18-63 of the municipal code to allow personal storage facilities as a conditional use in the CMU community mixed use zoning district, and to add restrictions for personal storage facilities that are located in the CMU district. Presenter Bryce Hembrook.
Thank you, Mayor. So the applicant is interested in adding some personal storage units on a commercial property, and staff informed them that this land use is only permitted as a conditional use in the light industrial and general industrial zoning districts. The applicant is therefore requesting to amend the zoning code to allow for this land use to be located or to be allowed in the CMU district as a conditional use. So on the screen is a map of where the properties that are zoned CMU are located. So as you can tell, a lot of our main commercial areas are zoned for community mixed use. City staff also encouraged the applicant to include some provisions that would specifically apply to personal storage facilities when they're located in the CMU district. Thus, the applicant requested to add restrictions to section 1863 to limit the facilities to be interior oriented, and that all individual storage units shall be accessed from the interior of the building. Also requested that the exterior of the structure shall be constructed with materials that are similar to surrounding land uses. Staff originally offered this suggestion to the applicant. However, after some more discussion, we decided to recommend a different way to kind of achieve the purpose of this regulation. So I'll go over that when we go over the staff recommendation. So the staff report highlights several reasons why this land use has traditionally been only permitted by conditional use in the industrial districts. And we also touched on how this is common in most municipalities, similar in size in Wisconsin. Staff is open to the idea of allowing storage units in a commercial district, but we would highly recommend that if this land use is allowed, it should only be located in an existing commercial building in order to maintain aesthetic integrity in our busiest commercial corridors where the buildings are highly visible. If the Plan Commission is supportive of permitting this land use as a conditional use in the CMU district, staff would recommend the following regulations to be added when this land use is located in the CMU district. So we would recommend that all entrances to individual storage units shall be accessed from the interior of a building, which was also the first request from the applicant. Number 2, personal storage facilities can only locate in an existing commercial building as an adaptive reuse project. Number 3, no buffer yard is required. And number 4, facilities may run electrical power within hallways, common areas, or office areas, but not in individual storage units, except for lighting. The staff report also highlighted 3 additional regulations that could be added if the Plan Commission would wish to do so, but we didn't think that they were necessary at this time. Essentially, the reason behind requiring that the land use is located in existing commercial buildings is because we have a number of buildings that are currently vacant, and with the uncertainty of the retail market, this is a possible way to utilize the existing buildings and increase tax base while kind of removing some blight. This would also ensure that valuable commercial land would not be developed solely for the purpose of storage units, since our supply of valuable commercial land is not necessarily abundant. So on the screen, you can see the staff's proposed changes. So this is what was listed in attachment 3 of the in the staff report. As always, the Plan Commission has three options. They can approve the request with any exceptions, conditions, or modifications that the Plan Commission feels are justifiable and applicable to the request. They can deny the request with justification stated. And then the third option is they can table the request for further study. So staff's recommendation would be to approve the municipal code amendment request as presented in attachment 3 with staff's recommended regulations, and to direct staff to prepare an ordinance for common council consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. This item does require a public hearing. At this time, I'll open up the floor to members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding this request. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Second call. Final call. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion to approve from the commission. Motion by Mr. Caprillion. There's a second. A second by Mr. Pinker. Any discussion? Mr. Pinker.
Bryce, is the gentleman requesting this speaking for himself, or is he speaking on behalf of a group of facility owners?
Just for himself.
Okay. And do we have a current tally of the number of vacant buildings within the, what I'll call it, the north-south CMU area?
So like along Central?
Yeah.
We do not have a tally. I don't know if, would you have an estimate? I'm not too sure without looking into it further.
Okay, and I've got one more. You noted in the report that the city assessor indicated that this could be a good tax base. Do you have any information from other cities that might be doing something similar to this?
We did not. We could certainly reach out to other municipalities. I know that, when I talked to other planning staff from other municipalities, they kind of had that preconceived notion as we had that they weren't originally highly assessed. But after talking with our assessor, that he kind of changed our perspective on that. So I think that other planners think the same way that we did before, okay. But I can find that out if you'd like.
Anything further from the commission? Mr. Hockenach, is that you? Okay, please.
So currently this would be just an allowed use in the CMU district, if I'm reading everything correct, right?
It would be permitted by conditional use.
Okay, it would be conditional use. So we would have the ability, if somebody were to come to us with one in, say, the old Office Max building, we would have the ability to say no to development there, correct?
Correct. However, since 2017, it's been harder for municipalities to deny requests for conditional use permits because you'd have to provide substantial evidence, and that can include personal judgment. So you would have to give substantial reason for why that should be denied. So it is more difficult. However, if the Plan Commission feels that the justification can be proven as substantial evidence, you could deny it. What you can also do is you could add regulations to try to mitigate any issues that may occur. So you could require maybe more landscaping, or you could maybe require some different design elements. But you are a little bit more limited than Plan Commissions used to be prior to 2013.
I mean, because I have a concern about opening these specific areas up to that kind of development. We've seen the explosion of these kind of buildings in the last probably 5-10 years. And I guess my fear is if we amend it to allow one, how quickly is it that every empty building starts becoming these? And now when the economy does turn back around, are we going to be in a situation where these opportunities where buildings could be filled by actual commercial, retail, or other types of properties are being filled by these short-term, storage? So personally, I plan on voting no on this. I don't think it's an appropriate use of that district. So I just wanted to let that be known. So,
and if I could just follow up,
please.
So Steve, I also included 3 additional regulations that we aren't recommending currently, but that are maybe some ideas that, the Plan Commission could look into, such as requiring a distance requirement or prohibiting the land use from being located on property that's abutting Central Avenue right-of-way. So that is certainly one of the things that we thought about is they do seem to go up pretty quickly. I think with requiring them to go in vacant buildings, they wouldn't go at such a speed as the storage units that are standalone. But that's certainly a thought that we had that we thought anticipated the Plan Commission might have an issue with. The other idea is, if there ever does become an issue, you could always, revisit the conditional use in the future as well. So I just kind of want to address those.
Anything further? All right, seeing nothing further then, why don't we do a roll call vote then for this?
Alderperson Rosendich,
Yes.
Caprillion.
Yes.
Banker. Banks. Hockennick,
No.
Mayor McManus.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Item 6, municipal code amendment request by the city of Marshfield to amend sections 18-57(7) and 8 of the city of Marshfield Municipal Code. These changes pertain to moving pump houses from small-scale public services and utilities land use and adding pump houses, well houses, and lift station to be classified as an essential service land use. Presenter Bryce Hembrook.
Thank you, Mayor. So the small-scale public services and utilities land use and the essential services land use are essentially almost the same thing, except for essential services would not have to meet setback requirements and bulk intensity and regulations. So essentially, we believe, staff has discussed this and believe that these pump houses, well houses, and lift stations probably shouldn't have to meet the setback requirements. And one of the major reasons is because the majority of our existing facilities aren't currently meeting those regulations. And if we were to have to update and replace necessary infrastructure, we wouldn't want setbacks to be the reason why taxpayers would have to pay more to relocate these facilities, because we don't really have much choice in exactly where they go. So we pretty much have to work with what we're given. And honestly, after looking at it, these should have been probably considered essential services when we went through the zoning code in 2013. So I think that this is just a way to fix that. So with that, the recommendation would be to approve the municipal code amendment request by the city of Marshfield to amend sections 1857(7) and 1857(8) and to direct staff to prepare an ordinance for common council consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This item as well requires a public hearing. At this time, I'll open up the floor to members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding this request. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Second call, anyone from the public? Final call, anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. Entertain a motion to approve a motion by Mr. Hockennick, second by Mr. Rosendich. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item 7, rezoning request by the city of Marshfield to rezone parcels 33-07088A, 33-07090, 33-07086, and 33-07089 from RH35 rural holding to GI General Industrial. The subject properties are located to the north of Yellowstone Drive and to the northeast of the Marshfield Research Station, UW-Madison. Presenter Bryce Hembrook.
Thank you, Mayor. So we are currently in the process of forming a TIF district, which would include these subject properties. The properties need to be zoned industrial in order to comply with the state statutes regarding TIF districts. In order for the land acquisition to be a TIF eligible expense, the TIF district needs to be created prior to the acquisition. The University of Wisconsin owns the property. We did receive written permission for the city to rezone the property. The city does have an option of purchase on the property, which dates back to 2002. So the city has a substantial investment in this property since a $250,000 deposit was required. So this was kind of always planned to be industrial land in the future, and here we are today. This land is located in the general industrial district in the future land use map and has been since used for agricultural purposes in the past. The general industrial district allows for a variety of industrial and commercial land uses, which are all mentioned in the staff report. And the subject properties comprise of roughly 125 acres, and the new sewer service area plan included these properties in the sewer service area in anticipation for future industrial growth. So on the screen are the four subject properties that we'd be looking to rezone. And then this is a future land use map. And then with that, the recommendation would be to approve the rezoning request to rezone the four properties from RH35 to GI, General Industrial, and direct staff to prepare an ordinance for common council consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This item also requires a public hearing. At this time, I'll open up the floor to members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding this request. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Second call, anyone from the public? Final call, anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion to approve from the commission. Motion by Mr. Pinker. Second by Mrs. Banks. Any discussion?
I just have one question. How much acreage is actually there? How much total acreage? I don't remember the number if it was ever presented. Just curious. Really.
125 acres for the four subject properties, but there are some wetlands and there is a stormwater pond, so it's not 125 of developable acres.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions? Seeing no further questions then, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, review of items under Wisconsin statute 62.235A, request by the city of Marshfield for consideration and report of the proposed Weber Park land acquisition located in the 700 block of South Holly Avenue, parcel number 33063110, 33044343B, and a portion of parcel number 1002288A in the town of Lincoln. Josh, do you want to do these separate or together?
I'll do cover.
Separate, okay, take it away on that one.
Thank you, Mayor. The Parks and Recreation Department, along with the Marshfield Area Friends of the Trail, have been working on trying to acquire this property for some time. There's been some negotiations for a bit to try to get this property in order to extend the trail system in Weber Park. Right now, that terminates at the south end of Weber Park or it loops around in Weber Park, but there's no way to get out on the South Holly Avenue end. This area is predominantly flood zone, so there's very limited development use in this property. You can see on the screen here, there's three parcels. Two are within the city limits, or adjacent to Holly Avenue. Those are owned by the Acker family, and then there's a property just to the west of there owned by Marshfield Country Club. We do have willing sellers for all three parcels at this time. So the plan would be to acquire the property. At some point in the future, annex that property from MCC into the city. Right now, that's sitting in the town of Lincoln. So that way we could combine it and make it all part of the Weber Park. And then eventually have probably a non-improved trail that would connect from the other trail system in Weber Park onto Holly Avenue currently. Outlined in the staff report are a number of recommendations and goals and objectives listed in the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan and the comprehensive plan itself in the city. Generally, the comprehensive plan recommends following the recommendations in the court for the comprehensive outdoor rec plan. Staff is currently in the process of updating or developing a bike and pedestrian plan. And so we have to rely on these other planning documents in lieu of that plan being completed. This is under review by the Plan Commission, strictly for review and comment. There's no approval necessary but staff is requesting review and comment by the Plan Commission before final action is taken by council. So I won't go over all of the reasons for this. There's not anything specific in either plan about the land itself, acquiring a specific property, because those plans are long-range plans and you often don't identify specific individual properties, but there is a lot of discussion about extending the trail system and the trail network. Now, it does terminate onto Holly Avenue, and there is not right now currently plans to extend the off-road trail, further to the east to Linden Avenue or to the Arboretum and the UW, but at some point that would be ideal. That would be a goal. But this is further extending the trail system and meeting a lot of check marks in our planning documents right now. So with that, I guess at this point, we're just looking for feedback from the Plan Commission prior to the actual offer to purchase going forward and the extension of Weber Park.
Questions or feedback from the commission? Mr. Kapurian.
So what is land property acquired?
Can you hit your mic?
John?
My question is, what is the actual plan if these properties were to be required, and how that connects with the trails that are at the existing Weber Park? And what sorts of trails are we looking at there, or is that not determined yet?
Well, I think that the plan is to continue the trail system. If you've been back in there, there's kind of unimproved trails, and it's not like asphalt or hard surface trails, but they would continue that kind of similar unimproved trail system to connect to Holly Avenue. So they wouldn't be like the asphalt trails like on some of our bike paths.
Yeah, so I go back there quite a bit, and most of those trails are grass, or there's some dirt, but mostly grass, which is, in my opinion, probably the least useful type of trail, because for bike especially, it gets lumpy. It's no fun to bike on grass. It just doesn't work all that well. So I guess if we're really talking about bike trails, we should be talking about hard dirt or gravel trail with good drainage, which obviously is more difficult and more expensive, but I just don't know if a lot of value is added if we just have more grass trails back there.
Well, and it's, trails serve multiple functions. They serve, pedestrian as well as bike. So, I mean,
Yeah, but how much trail can you possibly walk in that? I don't know. There's a lot of trail back there. There's no shortage. In what I've seen over that. I mean, it's never crowded or anything. I don't know.
Yeah, and this is ultimately, Justin would be here. He's on vacation right now, so he's not able to be here to discuss some of those things. I don't know, Kent, if you have any, as far as Friends of the Trail representative, this has been a push by both the Parks and Recreation Department and the Friends of the Trail to get this land to extend the trail system. So obviously there's a desire for it on that end. And
I absolutely want more trails in the city and more opportunity for recreation. I just want it to be real good quality,
Sure, definitely.
Just a comment. Is this eventually, I think the plan is though too, to connect it with the trail that's going to go all the way down Adler eventually. Is that next summer or the summer after that is construction?
Yeah, I think it's in I don't want to state a year and be wrong, but I think the latest is 2024, where the
Right.
extension is going to continue from Sycamore all the way down to Weber Park. So this would continue that loop system. And there's value there, but I certainly understand your point, John. I think there's...
And that was also a grant that was issued to the city, so to extend that trail. So, I mean, I would only assume that they're still working on
I'm looking forward to that.
our grants.
That's going to be awesome when
and
that
extend that trail all the way around.
Please.
Yeah, so, and I was going to mention this in staff updates, but as Josh mentioned, we're kind of starting the process, restarting the process for our bike and pedestrian plan. And so that's definitely one thing that we will discuss, our proposed routes. And as you can see on the screen, there are dotted lines for an off-road trail. Now, we don't specifically talk about whether or not it's going to be gravel or asphalt on our current bike plan, but typically the ones that are shown as existing are asphalt trails. So I think that there's been, we've probably looked into the option of having asphalt, and this is definitely something that we can discuss during the bike and pedestrian process. We can definitely take the notes from this meeting and kind of use this to see if there's justification for adding the asphalt. I think one of the things that we are trying to look at is trying to have a shared bike lane where this would come out in the future to almost connect it to the Arboretum. So that's certainly something that we would take a look at. But as for, right away, if this, gets approved at the next common council meeting, nothing would go in, anytime soon. But we would definitely look into it during that planning process.
Mr. Pinker?
I've got some of the same concerns that John mentioned. And when we hear the mention of the trail, I have a concern about how that can be interpreted. It could be interpreted as the trail here, or it could be interpreted as part of the trail system. As it stands right now, and this is without looking at any of the extensions, and I thank Quentin for mentioning the potential of extending the blacktop from Sycamore down to the park entry. Some people may not be aware of that at this point. But if you do not look at the extensions, this is a highly isolated area. It's basically self-contained. I'm questioning whether that actually needs an extension within it. And we're also acquiring part of a floodplain. Now, it may be to the property owner's advantage to get rid of that because they can't develop that to any extent. But then we're assuming we acquire that, and we're assuming the responsibility for that floodplain. And there are a number of environmental issues associated with that. And not having the park department reps here, somebody from the park board, I'm concerned that some of those environmental issues, which happen to be stated within the comprehensive plan, have not been addressed. As it currently stands, I would not approve or recommend in a positive way.
Mr. Hockenay?
Kind of looking at this, and this is more of a question to help me understand some of the terminology here. I understand looking at the larger map, the open share road, I understand, the bike lane, I understand. What is an on-road bike accommodation? Because I noticed there's some of that connecting here as well, but I don't have any reference point of what that is.
Typically, that's just a bike lane. But we use the term bike accommodation because not all of the on-road bike facilities are technically a bike lane. So that's just kind of a word for, a high-level word for bike lane, or yeah, basically a bike lane is probably the easiest way to explain it.
And then I come back to, how is that different from the marked on-road bike lanes that are currently on the map? I mean, is it just we're going to do something here, but we don't know what yet? Or is that's where my confusion is coming in, because I see like we've got the yellow marked bike lanes, but there's this red dotted line that connects from the park up to the trail along 5th and Linden. Is that for sure going to be a bike lane? Is that going to be the share road? Do we know for sure that, or is that just something that hasn't been decided yet?
Yeah, I don't think it's been decided. I think it's just this plan identifies the routes and identifies ideally what we could do most feasibly. So in some cases it's an off-road trail, which is obviously ideal, but in some cases isn't practical or cost-effective. And other times it's on-road bike accommodations, meaning it could be a combination of bike lanes or sharrows, just identifying that there's a system, a bike system, trail system here.
Perfect, that helps a lot, thank you.
Anything further? Mr. Pinker?
Now, it was mentioned that our parks director is on vacation right now, but looking at this, there are probably 7 or 8 groups that could have been here tonight. Friends of the Trail, somebody from the Parks Board, somebody from the Parks and Recreation Department. We have no neighbors here. There's nobody from the ambiguous defined user group. Nobody from Public Works, which happened to be mentioned in part of the report, and none of the neighboring property owners. That particular point also disturbs me because we don't have any input on this. And additionally, there's no record of letters within the report.
Anything for, please, Josh?
And we do have Ken Mueller, who's part of the Friends of the Trail, the representative of that organization and present here.
Anything further from the commission regarding this? No? All right.
Could the, sorry,
Go
could
ahead.
it be tabled if there's individuals here that would like to ask me questions of those? I mean, I know Justin's on vacation. If you're looking for some feedback, I mean, this is kind of a stopping point, I think, right now. And Justin's going to give us feedback of why we need to purchase these 2 lots to be able to complete the trail. He's presented it at Public Works.
Yeah, I think the Plan Commission essentially has 30 days to review. I mean, just, these are just generally cursory reviews by the Plan Commission. So the Plan Commission doesn't have a yes or no vote on these actions. These are reviewed by state statute stating that things like land dedicate or right-of-way dedication, acquisition of parkland, things like that are reviewed by Plan Commission for their feedback and comments. So there's not even a public hearing process laid out for this. So if the council wants to have that input prior to action, they could do that. But ultimately, the Plan Commission has 30 days from the time it's sent to them, essentially, to provide that feedback to the council. So.
Because there's no ruling here. You're just asking questions of us, correct?
Correct, yeah, and I think you're all making good points, and those are things that'll go in the note, in the minutes, and those will be included in the record for the council to review.
Okay.
If there are concerns, and you're the council representative, if you have concerns and want to, pull that item from the packet or discuss it as part of prior to taking action on acquiring the property, you certainly.
I didn't have any concerns until the individuals brought it up right now. So
Sure.
It really hadn't been brought up at Public Works as a situation. So.
Anything further? All right, we'll go on to B, request by the city of Marshfield for consideration and report on the approval of the certified survey map for the 8th Street lift station parcel and for the dedicated right-of-way for the curve at 8th Street and Holly Avenue. Presented by Josh Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just right next door to the last item, just down the street a little bit. Back in 2000, an adjacent property owner had asked the city to sell off a piece of property to give him some more land. And the parcel was a little bit larger here to the north and to the west. And the city was able to do that and carved out a piece. In doing so, noticed that this remnant piece that is part of the lift station has a piece, like a triangular piece that actually cuts into where our normal right-of-way would be located. It's a little over 1,050 square feet of property that's really part of the existing parcel that the lift station is on. The Board of Public Works is asking to dedicate a piece, that sliver, to be public right-of-way rather than on a parcel. We couldn't do it last year because doing so would have created a reduced setback, making that lift station non-conforming. That lift station was reconstructed a few years ago. This is kind of an example of what Bryce was talking about in the previous code amendment. We have these smaller parcels that we put these facilities on, and they often aren't able to meet setback. So it's important to have that flexibility here. The other provision is that We Energies wants to put a reconstruct their gas line in this corner or on Holly and 8th. And they would, if it wasn't part of the right of way, they'd have to get an easement from the city to put in those utilities. Typically, we have a 30-foot wide right of way from center line along the street. And here, this is along the north edge of the street. We're not even close to that 30 feet. Dedicating this triangle piece would allow the curve to kind of continue to match the other 60-foot wide right of way all the way through. Obviously, it's not ideal to have encroachments into that right of way. You could almost, looking at the aerial photo, you're getting close to where the street is. And it's not ideal. Obviously, the city owns it, so we would have control over what goes in there, but it's just a lot cleaner to have that as a dedicated right of way so that curve is matching all the way around. This project was done at this curve, and I actually used to live down here. This road was reconstructed to shorten up that curve years ago. It used to be a wider curve. And so back in the 90s that was done. And we never really corrected the right of way to accommodate for that. It also is included in the official map, and that's something that we will bring back at a later date. We've got another one with the Lincoln project last month or a couple months ago. So a couple fixes to do in the official map, but we can come back later for that. So basically just looking again for feedback. This is one of those reviews because the property is being proposed to be dedicated to the public right of way, even though the city already owns it. And that's just one of the steps in the process. I'm here for Plan Commission review.
Any questions from the commission? No? All right. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Number 9, presentation on the 2020 Economic Development Report presented by Josh Miller, Development Services Director.
And I know the mayor and Alderman Rosendich have seen this already, so I will be brief. The full report is in your packet. It was included in the packet, but thought it would be good to cover with the Plan Commission. This report used to be done a number of years ago by my predecessor. We just started doing it again last year. I just thought it was a good kind of a snapshot of what the economic development activities are in the community, and I think very eye-opening. So we'll start off with completed projects in 2020. Quality Tank Solutions finished their 60,000 square foot building in the Norwood Industrial Park. Custom Fabrication and Repair added a 20,000 square foot manufacturing building. Superior Gas added a small office space on 14th Street. Cardinal Health also added an office space on Galvin Avenue. Menards did some remodeling and had a new warehouse extension put on. Nelson Jameson finished up their remodeling headquarters of the old Figgies building. Taco John's remodeled their facility and added the drive-through extension, part of a conditional use permit here. Premier Heritage Apartments on next to the tennis courts near the high school finished their project. And then the SC Swiderski Apartments behind Walmart finished their first phase of their development. We move forward. So looking at the number of building permits, 2020 was actually a very busy year for our department. We had the most building permits we've had since 2010. And given the situation with the pandemic, we were quite shocked by that. But I think a lot of them were more residential in nature and smaller in nature than some of the larger projects that we've had in the past. But very similar to 2019 as far as the overall estimated value of permits. You can see just in the table, building permits far exceeded the previous year's numbers. Next slide. As far as the number of housing units goes, in 2020, we had very similar years to our latest last few years in trends in new single-family housing starts. We had 3 less duplexes in 2020 than we did in 2019, but we had still 3 duplexes, which is pretty good. Overall, we added 97 housing units total, which included a number of apartments. Looking at the assessed improvement value, we go back to 2018 and compare 2019 because we don't have 2020 values yet. The new housing start improvement value did dip a bit, primarily I think because of the fewer. It did dip a little bit, and we won't get 2020 values for a little while yet because some of those homes that were started construction in 2020 aren't completed yet. This is a kind of an epidemic that we've been dealing with, the shortage of lots. And you look at the top number and you say, wow, Josh, we have a lot of lots. And we do have a lot of vacant lots, but not a lot of those vacant lots are very usable. So really the key numbers to look at in this table are down at the last 2 columns. Really the developable single family vacant lots that are desirable in a desirable subdivision, meaning they're most likely to be developed, and developable vacant 2-family lots that are in a desirable subdivision. So looking at about 21 desirable lots. Now, the odd thing about 2020 is we had a number of lots that actually weren't on our radar previously because people are getting desperate to build still in the city of Marshfield. So they're coming up with creative lots that we otherwise would not be on our radar. So do we only have 21 lots in the city? No, we have more than that. There's lots that are maybe, in older neighborhoods that, people could develop in, or there's lots that are a little bit smaller than normal, or lots that are owner retained, meaning somebody owns it right next to them and would like a buffer yard, but they could still sell it. So we do have some lots, but this is less than a 2-year inventory, essentially. So we're working with the EDB on trying to come up with a solution to developing more lots, and I'm sure the Plan Commission will be hearing about what our solutions are in the very near future. So, The good news is the population estimates continue to increase. So Marshfield has an estimated population of almost 19,500 people. The apartments that are getting built are getting filled. There's very few vacancies in both single family and rental units. So ultimately, we are bringing in more people. So that's a good sign. Even with the pandemic, we had a number of new businesses. We added 20 new businesses in the community. The 22 of the existing businesses expanded or relocated in the community, and totally we lost 11 total businesses, which is actually fewer than 2019. So given the pandemic, now we're not done with the issues with the pandemic probably yet, but that's a good sign, we think. So. Unemployment rate is no surprise that it's jumped up in 2020. Wood County always is a little bit higher than the area and the region, or the region and the state, just in general. But overall, we see those numbers. Unfortunately, those numbers had climbed up in 2020, but again, not unexpected. County sales tax did increase. That was one of the things I know what the county board was concerned about, whether or not the sales tax would increase with the pandemic. And we did see that in all the 5 counties in the region, that they did see an increase in sales tax, even though some of it was very minor. Looking at the assessed value and equalized value, one of the things that the city has to keep track of, and I know the mayor is very well aware of it, is the disparity between our assessed value and our equalized value. Our assessed value, it should be at least 90% of our equalized value. That has dipped below that level now, and so we're not keeping up with what the equalized value is. And so that basically triggers, I think, 4 years of that, we have to do a revaluation. And so we're going to be looking at that in the near future, and that'll help get us caught up back to kind of what our equalized value or closer to market value is. This looks like a little bit of a concerning pattern, but if you look at the years that 2018 and 2019, we had the forward bank building getting constructed, and then in 2019, we had PCA being constructed. So those are 2 pretty significant projects that we don't get very often. So normally, if you just look at the 2016 and 17 trends and look at 2020, we're actually doing pretty good as far as the net new construction goes. So 2018 and 2019 were just really good years. So even though the trend is going back down, hopefully we'll get another big project in 2021 and see that trend going back up. This is a graph showing the TIF district increment of value. The value of the TIF continues to go up. The red bar is the increment of the new increment. So it's a little bit less than it's been, but that means development has occurred outside of our TIF. Tourism, we had a tough year in 2020, and I hate to keep mentioning COVID, but obviously that has an impact on room tax and the amount of revenue that we're getting from tourism. And so 2018 was a banner year, a record year. 2019 was not far behind. So those are good numbers, but obviously 2020, we don't have full year of data, but obviously we know it'll be down from previous years. In the downtown, the challenge to do a number of events, but they were still able to hold some of the public events, still able to do things on social media and encourage their businesses to get online to do e-commerce. And there were some other activities, fundraisers and things like that to help support the businesses. Overall in the downtown, there were 13 new businesses that arrived. 7 moved out of the downtown, but they were still in the community. 5 businesses in the downtown closed, and then 6 relocated within the downtown. Wenzel Family Plaza, we saw, it was utilized more in a passive way. We still had off the mat yoga on Saturdays. And there were other activities for, food truck activities. And, they celebrated the Halloween week, worked with Main Street on those activities. They also decorated. And at the end of the year, they did install an ice rink that didn't get opened until 2021, but the ice rink was added in 2020. As far as loans and grants, the CWED program, we had a 7-county region. Now we've opened it up to 3 additional counties, Oneida, Langlade, and Juneau. We did not, CWED is a Central Wisconsin Economic Development Fund that Wood County contributes to and the city of Marshfield contributes to. And it provides gap financing for businesses that otherwise wouldn't be able to get financing from your traditional institutions. And we work with banks on that. I sit on the CWED board. We weren't able to loan out any money in 2020 because there weren't expansions going on, but we were able to defer some of the loans that were that we did have. 20 of the loans were deferred, and 90% of those are back on track. So for the most part, good signs going on in the region. The CDBG housing program, we had a new administrator in 2019, but we were able to, in 2020, we were able to loan out over $52,000, and that is to help low to moderate income families and folks that have homes that need repair for different reasons. And so it's a deferred loan program, so they can take on the repairs and do those and improve their home, and then they don't have to pay it back till they sell their home. So good program to have. We work with Juneau County Regional Housing Authority on that. That program, we had 5 projects in 2020, almost $78,000 invested in that program in 2020, and nearly $200,000 of total improvements, which includes the public improvement side of things. So it was, or it includes the private investment. So overall, in the last 5 years, almost over $250,000 has been invested by, I think, both the TIF district and by the Economic Development Board, leveraging almost over $780,000 in investment in the dump. So it's been a very successful program. As far as the Economic Development Board, we had a number of activities, the sewer service area plan, facade program, sponsored Main Street activities, and the chamber activities. We had provided over $97,000 in grant money for small businesses affected by COVID. Worked with the UW Capstone Project on their West 2nd Street program, and are working on a 5th District strategic plan, and we'll continue to update the Plan Commission as we go forward with that. As far as workforce, Mackey launched their job board in 2020. We had over 100 jobs being posted. They had a youth apprenticeship program in 2019 and 2020. They also helped with an employment and resource fair in September of 2020 for the Verso closing. Basically, that was the paper mill plant in Rapids. And so that was trying to match employers with displaced employees from the Verso plant in the Ho Chunk Casino. We updated the 2020 economic profile for Marshfield. We made a number of business contacts. In-person visits were sparse. A lot of businesses didn't allow for that, but they were able to still do some of that. They also still had 7 ribbon cuttings and a groundbreaking, despite a lot of businesses being limited in activities. Looking ahead, the EDB is looking at developing a strategic plan. We're in the midst of that right now. Housing is going to be one of the top priorities, and redevelopment as well. Chamber, one of the big things they're working on is the makerspace. This was mentioned at the last council meeting a little bit, and talked about with looking to put that into the UW Stevens Point campus, working with local business on that, and just still continue to try to support the businesses in the region. As far as the EDB is looking at redevelopment plans. Wood County is providing funding for the West 2nd Street redevelopment plan. So the UW Capstone project is working on a small piece of that initially. And then we will be developing an RFP, working with a consultant, or at least that's the plan, and trying to get stakeholders involved and try to redevelop or come up with a plan to redevelop that West 2nd Street area. Hopefully by the end of 2021, the plan is to have that additional 124 acres of industrial land purchased and trade at 5th District. So that will be prime development for prime area for new industrial development. We just did the sewer service area plan, got adopted earlier this year. Worked with Wood County and a number of economic development partners in the region on the READY grant, which is the Rural Economic Development Innovation, where we had an opportunity to work with the Purdue University and the University of Kentucky. They provided a number of resources and helped walk through to develop a strategic plan. The emphasis on the plan was entrepreneurship, rural broadband, housing, and tourism. That's it. I guess is there any questions, or if there are other things that you guys see, and I haven't had a whole lot of comments on this report, but there are other metrics or things like that that you'd like to see incorporated, we're happy to do the digging. It does take a lot of time to put this report together, but I think it's a very valuable tool.
Mr. Pinker.
On page 18, the C2 makerspace, how is that specifically defined, and is that a business incubator?
It is not a business incubator. It's basically an educational tool at the university to try to help train kids and educate kids on how to use like 5-axis machining, 3D printing, CNC type of machinery, things like that, to get them used to and acquainted with that type of technology, and encourage them to, eventually it could spin off into an incubator, but the initial push is to really educate students and people interested in that type of work.
Okay, does the EDB have anything ongoing regarding an incubator?
They do not at this time, no.
Mr. Hockenay.
I got one more.
Sorry.
This would be on page 14. This is community development block grants, and then also the Central Wisconsin Economic Development Fund. What sort of publicity is given to those, and to whom are those programs directed, and specifically the Economic Development Fund? But for both of those, what sort of publicity is given? And then for the Economic Development Fund, it notes that the 13 loans approved in the past 3 years, 5 were located in Wood County. How many of those were located in Marshfield?
Good question. I don't have that out. I can get that information for you. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
As far as how we promote it, we work with Juneau County, and we haven't done a ton of promoting on it because our funds are sort of limited. And I know how it works is the city has a limited set of funds. Once we use those funds, we can go to the county. Once we use up the county, we can go to the region. So we're all kind of connected. City of Marshfield, Wood County, and the region are all run by the same administrator. And because our limited funds, we haven't pushed the project. I think we have about $30,000 left. We do have a brochure available. It is on our website. But we have talked with our committee on that, our housing repair committee, and just haven't gotten as far as we'd like to on it. But we do plan on promoting it more. As far as the CWIP program, we have redevelopment resources. They are our administrator of that program, and they go and reach out to local lending institutions and have conversations with them and try to make sure that they know what products we can offer and what assistance we can provide. Also, when I talk to businesses, I make sure that they're aware of that option.
Okay. And then the final item, thank you for once again demonstrating that we don't have a parking problem.
Mr. Hockenay.
Has there been any discussions about any type of incentive program to try and free up more residential lots? You mentioned in your conversation about some of the people that own maybe 2 lots and one of them is sitting vacant. Is there any discussion about trying to incentivize those people to let go of those lots so that we can get more development in our current structure? Because I mean, that would be something that would be huge if we only have 17 buildable lots. That's something that could be done real quick, and most of those lots are shovel ready, I'm guessing. So I just wonder if there's any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some internal dialogue. There's nothing like no draft plans or anything like that, but it's part of I think it's part of the solution. We did have a housing incentive program back in 2019 that we had offered, trying to provide, we had $500,000 of incentive for infrastructure, for new roads, utilities and such. We did have 2 applicants. One did get that, but we're still not to the finish line on that one. So it does take a little while, but we are actively working on 2 other projects right now. We're hopeful that can get to the finish line with some new subdivisions. But I agree with you. We've talked about could you provide the surveying costs to survey out the parcel or whatnot, or providing the laterals if there aren't any to provide the sewer and water. Haven't come up with a program yet, but that is on our radar.
Anything further? No? Then we will go on to item number 10, discussion on the City of Marshfield housing affordability analysis presented by Bryce Hembrick, City Planner.
Thank you, Mayor. So I included the housing affordability report in the packet for Plan Commission to look over. I'm not really going to give a presentation. It's essentially almost the same as last year's report, except for we updated some data. And next year, we'll look to maybe change up the format slightly, just to kind of provide some more information. But each year, we're required to update this report and add it to our website. And so we met that requirement. I believe that we updated it the day before 2021. So if there's any questions, I can try to answer those. But other than that, I just wanted to provide that report for you guys to read over.
Questions from the commission? Mr. Caprillion.
So one of the things I'm reading in here is that kind of two things here. So shortage of good rental units, especially on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of cost, right? And then also that there's a need of rehabbing and repairing older houses.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got programs to subsidize that, and like it was just mentioned, but that's been focused on owner occupied. Has there been any discussion about if you'd ever allow that for non-owner occupied? Try to improve the quality of the rental units and.
Yeah, they do. Actually, that program is allowed for rental.
Oh, okay.
Occupied. And there has been some discussion, the EDB, when the housing report, the most recent housing study was done in 2019. There was discussion about having some money set aside for rehabilitation and rehab of a program. It's just, obviously our focus has been on the single family issues and trying to address that. One of the things we have available to us in the coming years when our TIF District 5 closes, which is scheduled to be paid off, all the debt paid off, which is Mill Creek Business Park. That's scheduled to be done in 2023. Now, this is preliminary, don't hold me to this number, but that'll have about $500,000 to $600,000 available. So what the city can do is they can do an affordable housing extension, meaning that they can extend the TIF for one more year, collect another year of increment, and use that money for affordable housing. And 75% of it has to be used on affordable housing. Prior to that, so the EDB has asked me to put together a program by the end of this year. So when 2023 hits, people know what we have available and know what kind of programs we're going to be able to do. Because sometimes these projects are a couple of years in the making for affordable housing. Now, the repair and stuff like that, I think we could easily dovetail into that program and actually would be a great recommendation for that.
I do view the cost of rehabbing and repairing some of the older homes as a major issue to try to overcome. Because like, how do you make it work economically if you're either the homeowner or the property owner that rents out the space, right? I mean, the analogy, a 2x4 costs the same whether it's going on a $20 million house in Malibu, California, or it's going in a $60,000 house in Marshfield, right? So you get your materials and labor costs is a big impediment there. So I think that'd be a good solution.
Further questions? Mr. Ockener.
Looking at the cost for renting, is that just what's reported as what each lender or what each landlord is giving out for rent? Because I know, for example, I can give my situation. I pay more than what you would expect for a property of where I'm living, but that's because I don't pay a stitch of utility. That's all included in my rent, and that then affects and kind of skews these numbers. Is that included in there, or how do you guys factor those numbers in?
Yeah, so I get the data from the American Community Survey, and the numbers. It's kind of hard to tell exactly how accurate they are without, the further away we are from when the census is taken, probably the less accurate it actually is. So hopefully in the upcoming years, we'll have more accurate numbers for rent. I believe that the rent is just the rent of the unit and not including the utilities, as far as I can remember. But it's been a couple months since I looked into that.
So for example, my rent may drop into a higher category, even though technically I'm probably paying less actual rent because my landlord, due to the age of the building and not being able to separate out the utilities very easily, just pays the utility bill and then just averages it out and adds it onto our rent. So that's just my concern when it comes to numbers, where how many of these are actually maybe a little bit lower value than they actually are, because you're in buildings where that's the situation. So that's just the concern I have about saying we don't have enough low cost rentals. I will say that, but maybe that problem is a little bit smudged when you look at that kind of situation. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Anything further from the commission? Seeing nothing. All right, Bryce, thank you. Item 11, items for future agendas. Any items for future agendas? All right, seeing none. Item 12, staff updates.
Yeah, I have a couple. So I reached out to the clinic to ask them about their progress with the campus master plan projects. Currently, they don't have any immediate plans to start those projects. However, they did recently hire a new consultant to be their master planner. So they're working with them. They used to work with AECom, and now they're working with, I believe it's Canon Design. So they may be maybe coming up with some different plans. I think right now they're doing a lot of interior remodeling. But as far as new projects, they don't have any plans at this moment. They said that they would contact us as soon as they have more information. So we'll stay in contact with them throughout this process. As I mentioned before, I am working on the bike and ped plan progress. Right now I'm working with stakeholders and city staff. Pretty soon we'll be working with the public to get some feedback from them, and we'll look into recommending new trails, new bike facilities. So for example, we have the bicycle repair station. We might look into, is there another suitable location for something like that? So we'll be coming back to the plan commission in the future regarding that plan, and we will be promoting that plan through our communication director. And I can also send emails as well for anyone that is interested. Then, as Josh mentioned, the Second Street redevelopment plan, I think we're going to plan on having the student come and give maybe a brief presentation on the concept plan when that's further along. I believe he's going to present that to the EDB May 13th, if I remember correctly. So those are some projects that will be coming up in the near future. Thank you.
Anything further? All right, seeing nothing further then, how about a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Ockenick, second by Mr. Rosendich. Thank you all very much. We are adjourned.